The mountains are humbling because they don't care. They don't care who you are. They don't have feelings. They're just there. And the weather is just there. And you have to work within your own mind and your own capabilities and whatever it is you can do to either summit or not, or to make the right decision or not, turn around or not, keep going or not. But it's all on you. I mean, the mountains are unforgiving. They don't care that you're there when there's an avalanche. They don't really care. Like, they don't care when there's weather. They're unfeeling. But they're beautiful and amazing, and it's really cool to like conquer some of these mountains, to figure it out. It is really self-satisfying to have tried it 4 times and make it on the 5th.
Laura Clark is the first woman to solo climb all of Colorado's 14ers. She's also the first woman to solo climb all of Colorado's 100 tallest mountains. She is an incredible person that has found personal growth and clarity in her journey. She is a trailblazing mountaineer, an adventurer, and an advocate for getting people outdoors. She has turned the mountains into her sanctuary and her proving grounds. Laura's story is one of resilience, self-discovery, and a deep connection to nature. From her early days in Girl Scouts to navigating life's toughest challenges through hiking, she's a testament to the transformative power of nature and human willpower. Today, we'll dive into how Laura's love for the outdoors began, how mountaineering became her therapy during difficult times, and how she's using her experiences to inspire and encourage others. We'll hear some wild stories from the trail, some close encounters with wildlife, a ghostly tale, and the mental and physical challenges she faced as she climbed Colorado's most grueling mountains. So if you're a hiker or someone who finds inspiration in the stories of others, or if you simply love a good story of perseverance, I present you Laura Clark.
Laura Clark, what drew you into mountaineering and hiking? How did you get into it?
So I've always liked to be outdoors and like to hike. I remember camping with my family when I was young, but the main thing that got me into hiking was Girl Scout camp. Going to Girl Scout camp for the first time, it was in Southern California, and there was an option to hike a local peak. And it wasn't a ranked peak. It was just a peak above the camp. And it was like probably only a 4 or 5 mile hike. But to me, being, in grade school, it was amazing. It was fun. I loved it. I was always at the front of the line when we're hiking up there, and I loved the views, and I could see camp from below. And every time I went to camp, that was the excursion I wanted to do. I wanted to go hiking. I absolutely loved it. I had kids really young and wanted to continue hiking, so I'd take them backpacking with me and hiking locally, especially when we moved to Colorado, just to get outdoors. And the real catalyst for me continuing it was I went through a really bad divorce. And my husband had supervised visitation of the kids 1 day a month. And that killed me, not having control of my kids' safety. But I realized that I would make the problem worse if I was micromanaging his time with the kids. So I decided I wanted to hike on my own, by myself, just to give me clarity. I would hike. I couldn't contact them. They had to have their own time. It was a way for me to stay out of the difficult situation. And I just found peace there. I mean, I found a ton of peace. I could go through everything that was going on in my head and yell and scream and then come up with the right solution to solve whatever I was going through at the time, whether it was work or my kids or my ex and my divorce, and come back with a really good or the right way to handle the situation. Not the way you want to as soon as you're upset, but gives you time to process and go, nope, yeah, you want to do that, but that's really not good in the long term. And hiking gave me that. It gave me that clarity of, yeah, be a good person. Don't do what you want to do right away. Sometimes you have to set it aside and go, no, okay, we can think it for a little bit, and then we have to act differently. We have to act in the right way. And hiking gave me that.
You found that in hiking. It sounds like I was listening to you in some of the other podcasts, and the way you talked about how you came to some solutions for questions we all face. It seemed like they were home run solutions. Like they sounded like, from a third party perspective, that's what what you would tell someone that you really care about. and here you are talking about it. I was pretty impressed with that. So that's what you found in hiking. You found that ability.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I wouldn't just go hiking. I would take a challenging hike. So Pikes Peak is near me. It's a 26-mile round trip hike. It's 7,500 feet of elevation gain. It's a pretty intense hike. And I could end up doing that in about 7.5, 8 hours. But 7.5 or 8 hours is a long time to be by yourself and to process your thoughts and maybe just my actions. Okay, I didn't handle that properly. How can I apologize for it? Or how can I make up for it? Or how can I not act that way in the future? It gives you a lot of time to just have clarity. A lot of people go through hiking, which is pretty much hiking a long trail for between 30 to maybe, 200 days where they're hiking, and they can really have the time to just dig deep into what they're going through and why they've done what they've done and come to clarity about how they want to move forward or how they want to make up for their actions for things that they have done or wish they would have handled something differently. It's a great way to get clarity when you're out there.
When you were young, when you were in Girl Scouts there in Southern California, how old were you when you took that hike? And do you think you were going through something at the time and maybe you found it at that time? Do you remember that?
You know what? That's a really good question. I never really thought about that, but yeah, my parents were going through a divorce at that time. And I probably had a lot of stuff that I was going through. Yeah, I wasn't actually the person I am now when I was younger. I did a lot of things that I wish I wouldn't have done. And I can see that as giving me clarity at that time. Or even if it's just things like there's little squabbles among camp. When I was there, I was paired with somebody that was my mom's best friend's kid, and they just kind of expected us to be best friends, but we weren't. We fought tooth and nail, and I remember she didn't go on those hikes. Like, we went to camp together, we were bunkmates together because our parents were best friends and they thought it would be great to send us together, but we really just did not mesh. And we'd fight about silly stuff, just silly stuff. And yeah, she didn't go on those hikes, and I was able to be nicer to her when I got back because I had done something that I enjoyed.
Yeah, I have kids like yourself, and yeah, sometimes they have to find those friendships, obviously on their own, and you can try and like make friends with them, but it seems like they figure it out on their own. They kind of like who they like, and
yeah, you can't force those friendships.
So you moved to Colorado from Southern California. How old were you when you made that move, and why did you make that move?
So I moved in 2007, and the main reason that we decided to move was the school system in Southern California and the quality of life. The catalyst for us moving was it was Halloween, and the kids weren't allowed to trick or treat because the drug cartels were coming up from Mexico and kidnapping kids and taking them back down. So the whole town said, we're just going to cancel Halloween. And I said, this is not the environment I want to raise my kids in. I don't want to raise them in an environment where they're scared to go trick-or-treating. That's kind of a fun part of, living in the United States and one of our traditions. And they don't do it all over the world, but we do. And kids should be allowed to go trick-or-treating and feel safe. And that was one of the reasons we decided to leave where we were in Southern California. And we looked for the best school district that was free that we could afford to live in. And it was Colorado Springs, had the best education. And my kids were young. My oldest was 7 when we moved. It was a big decision for them, big decision for us. We just picked up and moved. We didn't have jobs or anything like that. We're just like, this is not how we want to raise our kids. We want to raise them in a place where they feel safe. And another reason I wanted to move was I'm a mountaineer. I'm a hiker. I was a hiker even then. I had hiked all the tallest peaks in Southern California, and they had a permit system, which I understand the permit system. I'm not saying the permit system is bad. It's just not implemented well. So back then, we didn't have the same internet stuff that we do right now. So I would have to by mail 3 months or 6 months in advance, apply for a permit to hike a mountain or a peak. And I didn't just have to apply for a permit to hike. I had to apply for one to park. I had to apply for one to have a campfire. I had to apply for one to spend the night at a specific campsite, and one to hike, among other things. It was insane. So I might get a permit for a campfire, but not one to hike. Or I might get a permit to spend the night somewhere, but not one to hike. And that just frustrated me because most mountaineers, they look at the weather and look for a weather window, and that's when they go. If you make a reservation 3 to 6 months in advance, you don't know what the weather's going to be. So you could have spent all that time and then not go. Or some people will choose to go anyway because they're flying in from out of state and they've already taken the time off work and they have to go. And then they get in difficult situations they shouldn't be in. Maybe there's a snowstorm and they decide to go anyway. That's obviously on the person. That's not on the weather. But the permit system makes it difficult to just go hike in Southern California. And I wanted to be in a place where I could just go hike. I could wake up in the morning, look out the window and go, okay, this is where I want to go. I didn't want to have to apply months in advance.
So you did your research. You said, well, Colorado's got a lot of peaks, a lot of mountains, and they don't have this permitting system. So let's move there.
Yeah. And at this point, it's slowly creeping into our more iconic areas. We are getting the permit system, and I still have the same frustrations with it. I understand there's so many people going, you need to limit the amount of people for the impact on the environment. I totally get that. But limiting it to one day, I see a lot of rescues on peaks there really shouldn't be because they're not that hard, but people will invest all this time and money to go do it, and they'll make that decision to hike when they shouldn't. I would much rather see a permit system where, okay, you got a permit, you have 2 weeks to use it instead of a one-day permit. Let people have a little more options if the weather isn't good. Because, I mean, this is Colorado. You wait a couple of days, it'll be great.
Yeah, they may be making it, sounds like they may make it even more dangerous inadvertently by forcing them into that short window for someone to hike.
Yeah, and to be fair, mountaineering is a small part of the community. Most people that go to these iconic areas are really just there to take pictures of the closest lake. That's what they're doing. And that closest lake is at 10,000 feet. Well, these mountaineers want to get to 14,000 feet. It's totally different weather at 14,000 feet than it is at 10,000 feet. I mean, mountains make their own weather. So it can be beautiful there and you can go, but to backpack further up or to hike a peak, it can become treacherous, especially in the summertime with thunderstorms and even in the wintertime with avalanche danger and stuff like that. If you could just wait a week until the avalanche danger clears, you'd have a window to go. And if you gave people a 2-week time frame or even a 1-week time frame, they would have the ability to make better decisions about the days that they go. Although, once again, it is on the hiker. You shouldn't make those decisions. If it's bad, you should know not to go. But I can see a lot of people getting or feeling forced to go because it's their only opportunity.
So a couple things about you. First of all, you were the first woman to solo Colorado's 14ers. Is that correct?
That is correct. As far as I know, I've put it out there since 2018 and nobody's challenged me. So, yes. Yeah.
And also you're the first woman to solo Colorado's 100 highest peaks, is what I heard as well.
Yeah, so those are our centennials, the 100 highest peaks. When I finished the 14ers, I just kept going. And all of those peaks are above, I believe, 13,850 feet. So I have over 600 solo summits of peaks above 13,000 feet. And I have a ton more with friends and people. I have over 1,000 summits if you add all the ones I've done with other people. But it's my goal, if it's the first time I've hiked a mountain, to do it solo. And then once I've done it solo, I'll take friends and people or somebody who's scared to go but wants a partner kind of thing. I do a lot of scouting groups up peaks just because they're interested. Some women's organizations where they've got, CEOs of corporate organizations that want to try something out of their comfort zone, but they're adventurers. I'll take them up some peaks. I love mountaineering. It's fun.
Yeah. The one thing when I was listening to you and researching, so there's no 15,000 feet mountains in Colorado. The highest is above 14,000. So there's no 15ers in Colorado.
No, and there aren't any in the lower United States. The next one up is in Alaska.
Is that Denali?
Yeah.
How high is Denali? Do you know?
I believe it's over 20. I don't know the exact number.
Oh, okay, so it's pretty up
it's
there.
Up there. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so in the lower 48, Colorado has the highest peaks, essentially.
Well, California has Mount Whitney, which is the highest peak in the southern United States or continental United States, and that's 14,508. And the numbers kind of vary depending on who did the geological survey. Some say it's 14,504, 508, 513, but that is the highest one. And then the next one is Mount Elbert in Colorado.
Actually, about Mount Whitney, I have a friend of mine. He he lives here near us now, but he took his wife up and proposed to her at the top. Yeah,
Nice.
yeah. So
Nice. That's a
you
nice
know,
memory. That's awesome.
yeah. So he likes. I think you were talking about high pointing. He loves hiking, and he's gone to like the highest point in Texas and California. I mean, he doesn't do it anywhere near what you do, but there's a draw for him. So yeah, I thought that was kind of interesting that he did that.
I totally get that. High pointing is fun in its own because you can make it as difficult or as easy as you want. So we have a high point in every state. And some of these states, you just can drive up to the high point. They're nice and easy. Others, like Mount Whitney, you've got to hike for quite a while. I mean, that one's over 20-mile hike. Some require ropes to get to the top of, but you can take it as far as the high point of your city or the high point of your county. And sometimes there's multiple high points, and it's just a nice checklist for people that are type A like me, that maybe the avalanche danger is too high, but I'll just check this off as another goal. And I've been there and I've been there and I've been there. And I'll go on vacation. It's like, where's the highest point of wherever it is I'm going? And it gives me something to do whenever I'm traveling. Oh, highest point of the country or highest point of the city or highest point of the county or state, or there's a ton of things you can do. Right now, my goal is to finish the 13ers in Colorado. So we have 584 of them, and I have 88 left. So a couple of years ago, especially during COVID, I decided to try to live out of my car and just hit some high points there in the middle of nowhere. So I wasn't at that time having any interaction with any other people. And it was a nice getaway from everything that was going on. And then that kind of stopped, and I really was making advancements on the 13ers. So it's my goal in the next year or two to finish those. And then I'll hit the rest of the high points in the other states that I haven't actually done yet. So.
You sound like that's a goal. That's like, it sounds intentional that you're trying to reach that goal. Did you start out like that when you came to Colorado? You said, I want to be the first woman to climb all of Colorado's 14ers alone. Kind of walk me through that.
Oh, no, that wasn't a goal at all. I just couldn't find partners that were as intense as I was. I wanted to go every Friday. That's what I wanted to do. I had Fridays off work, and my kids were in school, so it was a great opportunity for me to go and do something and then still be a parent when they came home. Like when I would do Pikes Peak, I was still home by 11 or 12. So when the kids got off school, I was able to take them to their activities or go to their football games or whatever it was that they were doing. And that was exciting. And I was really into it. And I was, not to like toot my own horn, but I was fast. I didn't need to take breaks, and I had a mission, and I just wanted to go, and I wanted to summit and come back and then be a mom when I got back home. And I couldn't find people that were as intense as I was. I got a lot of last minute cancellations. So I tried and tried and tried. And, the night before it's, oh, I'm not feeling well, or, my kid is sick, or I don't think I can go because I've got to do this. And finally I just said, I'm just going to do it on my own. And there's 58 14ers in Colorado. And when I hit about 30, I realized I had done 30 by myself. And I'm like, well, there's not that many left to go. Might as well do it. But it was never really a goal to be the first. Wasn't until I was in the 50s of the 58 where I realized nobody else has done this. Like, nobody else has, so might as well do it. And then, like I said before, Girl Scouting is a huge part of me. And if I can inspire those girls to do something, I want to inspire them to do something. And I realized it was a nice segue into preparing girls for the outdoors, or letting them know that they can do it too.
There's like a community of mountaineers and hikers. And it sounds to me, from what I heard, that you almost fell into it. Like you were doing all these things that perhaps a lot of people have never done, and you're like doing them accidentally. You're climbing these mountains. You're doing these things for yourself, and then you start finding out that there's a community, and that there's I guess maybe a culture and some rules that these hikers and mountaineers generally have that you weren't aware of when you first started.
Absolutely. And I started doing it for myself. I wasn't doing it for anything else. I wasn't doing it for a goal. I was just doing it for personal peace. And I've been a journaler my whole life. I think I got my first journal when I was 8, and I just chronicle my life. It's just what I do. And the 2000s came around, and we got blogs and stuff like that. So I started blogging, and it was really just for me. Just at the end of the day, it's like my personal diary. It was writing stuff down. And I didn't realize until I finished the 14ers that people were following me. I was being told I was an influencer. And I'm like, what? Like, this is my own personal blog. This is just for me. And then it totally changed my behavior. People were watching what I was doing. And I didn't understand that before. Like, I've got to be real careful with everything I do. I have to do everything exactly right. Not that I shouldn't anyway, but now people are watching me and calling me out on stuff. I have to make sure I am leaving no trace and I am doing exactly what I need to be doing. And I was chronicling my hikes for myself, not for them. And they were starting to tell me, you don't have a picture of this. You don't have a picture here. You don't have a video here. And you normally do videos. And I'm like, well, it was really cold that day. I didn't want to take my gloves off, but didn't realize that it meant something to other people for me to prove that I had been hiking, like prove to them in however they wanted to be proved that I had done it. But I didn't start out to prove anything. I was just doing it for myself. So now when I go out, I have really detailed records of everything that I do. I've got GPX files. I've got summit videos from the top. I've got a picture of me every single time because a lot of people wanted that. And now I'm getting kickback. Do you really need to take a summit photo every time? And it's like, well, if you guys told me this is what you wanted, I'm just, I'm in this whole world now where I feel like there's rules that I didn't really start out to be a part of a rule-based club. But there were things I just didn't know. That you had to, if you want to prove it, you've got to be able to do all this stuff. And I had done it. But at this point, I think I do it a little bit better. I have trip reports for everything I've done, and they're very detailed trip reports. And it's really nice to have somebody saying, thank you for this. I didn't have cell service and I couldn't, a lot of people go out there not knowing how to use a map and compass. And so they use their phone instead and didn't work. And they're like, I printed out your trip report and the pictures you gave me helped me get back home safely. And that's great. That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking to help inspire people to get out and stay safe.
Yeah, I looked at some of your reports, and they're very detailed, especially with those pictures. And you even have arrows pointing to where to turn and head this direction. Tell me how, so let's say you're going to go on you're going to hike up a mountain tomorrow, let's say. How do you go about planning it? What is your setup? I think you have a truck. I want to hear about this truck, and the setup in that truck. And then when do you start taking pictures? Are you journaling this entire time? Give me that kind of picture.
Okay, there's a lot there, and I might forget because that's kind of a 3-part question. So feel free to remind me when I get off topic. But in the wintertime, when we have high avalanche danger or there's a lot of snow, I still need to keep myself busy. So I set together routes for the peaks I still need to climb. I will go on CalTopo, which is a topographic map pretty much of the entire world, and I'll look for the area I want to go, and I will map out a route on CalTopo. I will save that route as a GPX file to my phone, and then I will...
Sorry to stop you. I'll piece it together. So when you say map out a route, what is that? So us non-hikers, what does that mean? Like when you map out a route?
So I can look at the topographic map and I can draw in lines of where I think I should hike. I can look to see different elevation gains. I can see slope angles. I can see private property versus public property. I can see a ton of stuff on CalTopo, and it's a free site. And it'll even tell you fire danger and snowfall and a whole bunch of other stuff. So I'll go in there with just with my mouse and I'll map in the route I would like to take. I can look at it and go, okay, well, that's really steep here. I would like to come up this way instead, and map out a route I want to take. And then I can print out that topo map to take with me. So I can kind of see what it's going to look like. There's also views that you can do where you can actually see where the tree line stops and where you're going to be above tree line or below tree line or gullies. And it's a great tool for mountaineers to get out there and map their own routes. I can save it to my phone, so I can pull it up and be looking at my phone and it'll show me where to go. But I never really rely on that because it's dangerous. And then once you get out there, the terrain is different. No matter how much research you do, the terrain is different. But at least I know that if I get lost, I can find my way back to my truck or back to the trailhead where I started. And that happens a lot. There's a lot of times I get out there and these peaks are seldom climbed, so there's not a lot of pictures. And I look at it and go, yeah, the topo map shows that's the easiest route, but looking at the terrain, there's cliffs there or there's something that weren't on the topo map, and I've got to then go back home, use the pictures I took and go, okay, instead I'm going to try to summit this way. I'm going to try to go around it. That's not the best way to do it. And as I'm doing this, a lot of times I'll set up cairns so that when I'm doing my trip reports, there's cairns for people to see, yeah, that's the way she went. She actually made it. And if it's a way that doesn't work, I will tear those cairns down because it didn't work. But they're still there for me to find my way back out in case it works or doesn't work. If it works, they say. But
what's a cairn? What's a cairn?
A cairn is pretty much rocks placed out of place. So usually it's at least 3 rocks high, but sometimes it'll be just as little as a rock on top of a log, like where it wouldn't naturally be. Something to show you, yeah, this is the way you're supposed to go. Mountaineers use those to help follow routes, especially above tree line or where there's no established trail, to help you get up or get back down. Yeah, pretty simple. It's just cairn stacked. And there's a lot of information out there like don't stack cairns, don't do it, don't do it. But when you get to a point where you're kind of a professional at it, you're expected to do it because you're keeping people safe. You're showing them the right way to go. If you don't know how to do it, don't do it because you can kill people. People will go the wrong way. But for safety measures, especially above tree line, it's a really important tool to keeping people on the track to the summit.
These cairns, do you form an arrow like heading this way or head that way?
There's some places that do that. Not as big of a deal in Colorado. I think that's more on the East Coast. They do that. Here, it's just usually rocks stacked, a couple rocks. And you know what? 1 or 2 or 3 is enough, but you'll see some that are 6 feet high. I mean, just, some people go to town with these things, and that's usually in way more populated area where everybody just adds a rock. And I don't really support that. I think you can make it small and somebody can figure out where they need to go. It's just to keep safe and on track.
So these trails, you're going up these trails, and for most of us that probably have never taken our own route, we've gone on trails, but it sounds like you're just deviating from a trail and you're just walking through maybe some land that no one's ever walked through before. Am I picturing that right?
That's absolutely true. Yeah. So it's getting up there, making your own route, and getting off the trail is hard. I used to be a park ranger, and it's stay on the trail, stay on the trail, stay on the trail. But to be a mountaineer, there are no trails to the tops of these mountains. Now, some there are. Mount Whitney is a Class 1 trail. Pikes Peak is a Class 1 trail. You can follow a trail all the way up to the top. But you've also got thousands and thousands of people doing those trails every year. The peaks I'm doing, you might get one person every 5 years doing it, maybe, if not longer than that. They're just not well traveled, and you have to figure your own way to the top. There's no signs. There's nobody pointing the way, which is why I put together trip reports on my website so that people can know how to get up, because it's not obvious. A lot of times your route is not obvious.
Now tell me about, you have a truck, right? I think you have a truck that is like your companion, I guess, to get out to all these trailheads. Tell me about this truck.
So my truck, it's a blue Tacoma with a topper on the back, and I've named her Bonnie. So she's my travel vehicle, and I've got a bed in the back. And I made some shelves in the back, storage area kind of thing, more cabinets than shelves. I got a stove back there. I've got food. I've got first aid equipment. I've got a heater. And when I'm out at the trailhead, I will spend the night in that before I go out the next day hiking. And sometimes I get to sleep in that 2 or 3 nights in a row. And sometimes it's just my base camp where I'm going out backpacking and then can come back to my truck. A lot of these peaks are just to get to the trailhead or where I start. I say trailhead loosely. It's just where I start. 20 miles off a 4-wheel drive dirt road that I drive into and maybe want to spend the night before hiking 15 miles into base camp, climbing the peaks that week, and then hiking back to the truck and then hiking out. It's nice to have a truck base camp where I can just go and I know I have everything I need. It's kind of nice. And it's also a nice survival vehicle. I mean, out here, you get stuck in a snowstorm or you're on the freeway and they close it. I can go in the back and be very, very comfortable. I got a heater back there. I got a bed. I got a change of clothes. I got everything I need. It's kind of nice. I can go for months at a time living out of the back of my truck.
You have food back there, like some food that can keep you?
I do. So we are kind of homesteader survivalists here. So if we don't raise it, or shoot it or grow it, we don't eat it. So I, in the fall, hunt and process meals, and I have a lot of beef jerky that I've made or pepperoni sticks and stuff like that. That comes with me. I can a lot of stuff. That'll come with me. And then, yeah, I'll buy stuff from the store, little packets of tuna or something like that. So I have food when I'm out there.
So you go hunting on your own, or do you using a gun, a bow and arrow? What are you
Yeah,
doing there?
I'm not a bow hunter. I'm not there yet. No, I use a gun, and it's kind of a family thing. So we have a group of friends. We all go out and go. I'll go with my husband. He's better than I am. Sometimes he'll call me, "Hey, I got an elk down," and I'll stop my hike and I'll drive to him because you have to pack him out. Once you shoot him, you got to pack him out. And he's like, "I need help packing it out." So my hike is done for the day, and I'll just go to him. I'll hike to wherever he shot it. We'll quarter it, and then we'll bring it back and process when we get home.
And there's predators, obviously bears and mountain lions, I guess. What's your plan for if you encounter a bear? Do you have bear spray as well or not?
I don't. We have black bears in Colorado, and bear spray is really meant for grizzly bears, not necessarily black bears. I like to tell people I see a lot of butts. I see bear butts, I see deer butts, I see elk butts, I see rabbit butts. They're all running away from me. They're not coming towards me. I've had very few instances where an animal has actually come towards me instead of been running away. So bear spray is not something I would normally keep with me. It's not something, if you're hiking in Colorado, I would tell you to have. I would say it's excessive. I've probably seen 3 to 4 bears in the over 1,000 hikes I've done in Colorado, and they've all been running away. They haven't been coming towards me at all. Now, I also stay safe. I don't keep my food in my tent. I don't roll around in beef jerky. There's no reason for them to want to have access to me unless I have food that they can't get to or that's near me. There's no reason they're going to want to interact with me.
Do you have any stories of it doesn't sound like you had a close encounter with a predator, but do you have any stories where you saw something, dangerous animal or something that you remember from one of these hikes?
I have several stories. Like I've seen a lot. I've seen a couple mountain lions out there, and they are much bigger than you think they are. I mean, nose tip to tail was as big as my truck. Easy. Like they're large animals. And there was one time I was sleeping in my truck the night before I was going to do a big hike. And I get out in the morning at like 2:00 in the morning, and I shine my flashlight everywhere from the back of my truck because I've seen mountain lions before. I've seen raccoons and deer and possums and stuff out there. So I like to know what's outside my truck before I get out of it. And I shine the light and there's nothing out there. So I get out of the truck, and the first thing usually you have to do, everybody's going to have to do this, is you got to use the restroom, right? The first thing when you wake up, you got to do that. So I shine my light and I find a spot that I'm going to use the restroom in. And as I'm hiking to that spot, I see a little orb that's like the size of a marble, and it's glowing at me. And I'm like, that looks like an eye. But I was near an actual established trailhead, so I figured it was a piece of trash because it was just one orb. It wasn't two. If it was an animal, it would have been two, right? You would have seen both eyes, not just one. So I didn't really worry about it. I turned off my flashlight because I was going to use the restroom, and in case anybody else was out there, I didn't want the only thing they could see to be me, like using the restroom. So I did what I needed to do. I turned the flashlight back on, and the orb is gone. And then all of a sudden it's back there again. So I kind of make a mental note to myself okay, there's a piece of trash out there, clean it up, leave no trace. There's something out there that's making a reflection, and it's really close to the trailhead. So when I hit out there, just find it, put it in my pocket, put it away. I walk around, I get in my truck, and at this point I had a Tundra V8 truck. And I turn it on, and like 3 things happen at the same time. I turn it on, I hear this big vroom because my engine turned on. The lights went on automatically, and there was a mountain lion right in front of my truck that just looked at me, turned, and jumped and ran away. So he was kind of stalking me while I was doing, my morning constitutional kind of thing. He was actually coming towards me forward and forward and forward. But I didn't think it was an animal because there was only one eye. You should normally see 2. So knowing that he was right there, or she, I don't know if it was a male or a female, I decided to just sit in my truck for half an hour and give it time to get as far away from me as possible before I started that hike. That was a fun one because it was unexpected. It was unexpected, like didn't expect it to be there kind of thing. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if I would have continued with that hike myself. I was like, there's a huge predator.
But it it did a 180-degree turn and just jumped and ran away. Like it was, and that's what I said. Most wild animals will. Most don't want anything to do with you. They realize you're dangerous because you're making noise. Most animals don't make noise. If you're making noise, you're dangerous. They know to run away.
Has mountaineering changed your perspective on things such as solitude, such as self-reliance? By going on these hikes, you're by yourself for hours at a time. Sometimes sounds like days at a time. Do you have thoughts on solitude and self-reliance? What do you think about that?
You know what? I have learned that this is going to sound terrible, but I am better by myself. I make better decisions when I'm by myself. I love being in charge of making decisions. When I'm with other people, with a group dynamic, I am more likely to give up to the loudest person. Okay, fine. You think we should go that way? We'll go that way. I know it's not the best way, but we'll do it. With mountaineering by myself, I always feel safe. I know that I'm making the decisions. I am choosing when to turn around. I know my capabilities. I know what I'm good at. I know what I'm not good at. I know that I can look at something and go, that's outside of my capabilities. So I'm going to turn around. I'm going to train more, going to come back, do some more research and make it happen. But personally, myself, in a group dynamic, I tend to more often defer to somebody else because, okay, you want to do that, it's on you. And I know it's not going to work, but it's on you. When I'm by myself, I know what will and will not work, and I just do it.
Do you think by this process of challenging yourself like that, spending a lot of time with your thoughts, do you think you've changed in a lot of ways, or do you think you're pretty much the same as you've always been?
I think I've grown a lot as a person. I take things in stride a little bit more. I don't get as upset with the situation. In fact, I'll actually just push it out of my mind till my next hike where I can figure out how to deal with it. It's made me a bit calmer, not jumping to conclusions as often. I'm not going to make rash decisions. I kind of put things off to think about what is the best way to deal with the situation. How can I be a nicer person? That is my goal. My goal is to be a nice person. It is not to be a reactive person, and some things feel good at the time, but they're not the right thing to do. I want to do the right thing. And in fact, I did recently get married, and there's times my husband's like, you know what, you just need to go hiking. He'll just say that to me, like, I think he seems stressed. I think you need to go for a hike. And I'm like, you can tell I'm stressed. He's like, yeah, why don't you just go for a hike? And I always come back feeling better. Even if it's just a short hike near where we live, I always come back in a better mood and clarity, mental clarity. It gives me the time, like, right now, we live in such a digital age where we're always on our phones, we're always on our computers, we're always working, we're doing things. And when you're out there in the mountains, it's not there. You have time to focus on something besides a screen. And really, I focus on what's going on in my head and process it.
Do you find mountaineering challenging both physically and mentally? Is it Are you running from something by going there, do you think? Or do you think you're running towards something? Have you ever thought about that?
Oh, yeah, I'm definitely chasing something. I'm goal-oriented, and it is really my goal to get these peaks done. I want to do them. I love doing a different peak every time. That makes me happy. I get excited. I get a thrill with making it to the summit. But it is both mentally and physically challenging. There are tons of times on many hikes. I mean, there's almost no hike I've been on where I haven't wanted to turn around. Just because, it's hard. It's not easy, and you're exhausted, and maybe you're carrying between 10 and 50 pounds of weight, depending on what kind of hike or backpack you're doing. And your body's like, no, I don't really want to be doing this right now. But mentally, I know I want to be doing it. So it's being able to push myself to the point where I'm happy with what I've done. Mentally challenging also is turning back. It is really, really hard to hike 15 miles to base camp after driving on a dirt road for hours to get to where you're parking, and then hiking to base camp and attempting a peak and getting 200 feet from the summit and failing and making the decision to turn around and come back and try it again. And there have been peaks I've done that 3 or 4 times. Like, I spent 3 weekends in a row trying to get one peak, and it is mentally exhausting. It's physically exhausting. But when I get it, it's thrilling. And that's what I'm doing it for. I'm doing it, go back, train, or go back and look at a map a different way, and let's find a different way because this obviously isn't working. And I've done that several times. It's taken me 4 or 5 times to summit a peak, multiple times. And the personal accomplishment from that is huge when I finally get it. That's a good, yeah, I just had to keep going. I just had to keep going. I just had to find another way. And yeah, that took a month. Like it took a month to figure it out, but I figured it out. Or sometimes it takes years. Sometimes some of these places are only accessible, a month or 2 out of the year. So you only have this short window. There's river crossings you can't cross because they're too high. So you have to get in there before the winter snow hits, but that all the spring melt is off. And you're really looking at like September is the only month I have to do this peak. And you don't get it. And so you have to wait until the next year. And it teaches you patience. Like the mountain will always be there. It'll always be there. You just have to have the mindset that I can do this. Just have to keep trying.
Let's say you're on a hike, you're climbing a mountain, and you're tired, and the weather's not good. And you still have some time, but you're really exhausted. And you reach that point in your mind where you say, I can turn back or I can continue forward. If you continue forward, what's going through your mind? What are you feeling? What do you tell yourself at that moment?
There's a lot of dynamics with that. I mean, but you got to be smart. So if I do make the decision to go forward, it's because I can see the weather window is still there. It's not going away kind of thing. I know I feel exhausted, usually on most hikes. And you get to a point where your body is telling you you're exhausted for self-preservation. When your body is telling you you're done, you're really probably only 50% done. Your body still has a lot more in it, and it becomes mental. It becomes, okay, I know I'm tired, but I know I can do this. Let's just keep going. Let's play a game in my head. Let's sing a song. Let's do cadence. Let's do steps. We know it's right there. That kind of stuff goes through my head, but I turn around a lot. If it's really not safe, it's turning around, and that's actually harder than it is to continue going forward. You have to make that decision where, you know what, you are solo. And if something happens to you, who's going to be able to find you? Who's going to know how to get here? Who has the ability to get here? It's always the best idea to turn around. But then you're also thinking to yourself, I was so close. I was so close. And I do not want to come back to do this again. I don't want to. And those are the hardest decisions. Turning around is a much harder decision than continuing to go forward, no matter how tired you are. Because you're going to look at all this stuff I did to get here. It could be 50 miles to get here. I got to turn around. I've got to hike the 50 miles back, go to my car, drive 8 hours back home, and try this again next week. It's a hard decision, but it's the right decision. It is much harder to make the decision to turn around than to go forward. But a lot of times that is the best decision.
It sounds like mountaineering is very humbling. I think if I did that, it sounds like I would be humble every time I face a situation like that.
It is. The mountains are humbling because they don't care. They don't care who you are. They don't have feelings. They're just there. And the weather is just there. And you have to work within your own mind and your own capabilities and whatever it is you can do to either summit or not, or to make the right decision or not, turn around or not, keep going or not. But it's all on you. I mean, the mountains are unforgiving. They don't care that you're there when there's an avalanche. They don't really care. Like they don't care when there's weather. They're unfeeling, but they're beautiful and amazing. And it's really cool to like conquer some of these mountains, to figure it out. It is really self-satisfying to have tried it 4 times and make it on the 5th and go, you know what? It took some perseverance. That was it.
Have you heard of the idea of flow, where you get in the flow? Sometimes people describe it, tennis players, they'll play this incredible match and they'll get in the flow. They'll say a chess player will sit down across from somebody else, and they what they enjoy about that challenge is that they get in the flow. Do you think, I don't know if you're familiar with the term, but do you feel that you get in the flow when? Do you ever feel like it? Some people describe it as like a weightlessness, as like this energy from that's from within, and you just, something's almost helping you forward. Do you ever get that feeling?
Absolutely, especially as I get nearer and nearer to the summit. I mean, I do a lot of thinking on these hikes, but there does come a time where the thinking ceases and you're just one step forward and you're excited and you'll forget what actually just happened. You're like, how did I just get here? You find yourself there. Yes, absolutely. I do understand the flow concept and I'll get like second bursts of energy. I was exhausted. Didn't want to keep going. And then all of a sudden it's easy. It's like my body takes on a life of its own and summit's right there. You just get into a different state of mind where your body takes over and your mind clears and you're at the summit. And especially on the way down, there's a bit of euphoria on the way down because you already know the challenges, right? You've already hiked up, so you know everything, and it's so much faster to hike down than to hike up.
And when you get, let's say you've gone to a peak that you've never been up before, okay? So you hours getting there, you're by yourself. It's a beautiful day. When you get to the top, what do you feel? What are you feeling when you reach that point?
Okay, well, I've done so many that I'd have to say it's different. If it's an easy peak, I'm just happy it's done. I've got the report ready. I can head back down. This was fun. If it's a peak I've attempted several times or there was rock climbing or ropes involved, it's euphoric. It's just, oh my gosh, I did that. And I did that by myself and I freaking rock. Like that, I just take a minute to just remind myself because when you're solo, you forget sometimes what you can do. I have people that are amazed by what I can do. And to me, it's just normal. Like it's a normal thing. I hike 150 peaks a year. Mountaineering is normal to me. And when it's a difficult peak, it's really a moment to reflect. I cannot believe I just did that. I can't believe I figured that out and didn't die. And then I'm excited. And then some of the more difficult ones, it's like, okay, check yourself. You still have to get back down. And a lot of these peaks are harder to get down than they are up. So I know I'm contradicting myself for what I said earlier, but with the mountaineering ones, the ones where you need ropes, those can be harder to get down than to get up. So then I have to remember, okay, only celebrate a little bit of time, really wait to celebrate till you get back to the truck, because then you know you're safe. You know you actually successfully made it down, because making it to the summit's only halfway. You have to make it all the way back. And with the more difficult ones, yeah, check myself. Okay, yay, you did it. Now get down safely because you still got stuff to do.
When you get to a summit, do you have a ritual that you do? You always do one thing when you get to the top, or you just get up there, look around and feel it and then go down? Well,
it's not really a ritual, but it's something I feel I have to do. So I get to the top, I take my camera out and I do a 360-degree video of the summit. And I take a selfie of the summit. And if I have cell service, I'll call family to tell them that I'm safe, kind of thing. But really, it's kind of tagging the summit and getting back down to me. I mean, it sounds boring, but I'm excited to hit the summit. And I've been taking pictures. I'm really excited to get back to my truck and put together the trip report of how I did it. Really excited for that. Now, when I get back to my truck, most of the time I'm sleeping in that truck for the night. So, I'll have a shot of whiskey or something when I get back. But I don't do that at the summits because I still have to make it back safely. And I just feel that's kind of a bad thing to do, to have a shot of whiskey or a beer at the summit, because then you're not clear-headed for the way back down. But as soon as I get back down to my truck, if I'm staying there for the night, it's like, yep, okay, let's celebrate now and let's get this trip report put together, kind of thing.
Do you ever get like mountain sickness climbing to the peak of a mountain at all, or not really?
You know what? I haven't. I live at 7,000 feet, which isn't 14,000 feet, but I've never had a problem. Family members come to visit me, and yeah, they have a problem. They have a hard time dealing with it, just even at 7,000 feet. But I'm lucky. I've got a pretty good cardio routine. I eat healthy. I eat the right foods to keep my blood cell count high, and I've never experienced altitude sickness.
Tell me about this workout routine. I heard about this treadmill exercise that you do, and I mean I've done the treadmill, but tell me about that.
Right. Well, the best exercise for hiking is just to get out and hike. That's it. And I hike a ton of peaks a year, so I'm usually out there hiking. But when I can't hike, I have a treadmill at home, and I set it to 15% elevation and 5 miles an hour. And I just charge on it for an hour. I'll have my iPad and I'll be watching a movie and I'll just do an hour of that at a time. If I've got a really big backpacking trip coming up, sometimes I'll wear my pack at the same time. But it's just an hour, 5 miles an hour, 15%. And yeah, you'd be surprised. That is probably the best thing you can do if you want to be a mountaineer and you can't be hiking all the time. It works great. I do yoga too. That helps a lot on scree balance. When I find myself on unstable terrain, you'd be surprised how your body just kicks in and knows how to stabilize itself. It's been amazing. Works for skiing too. Yoga's amazing. I love yoga, but cardio is what you want to do to be a mountaineer.
Yeah, I've gone to Nicaragua before, and they have a volcano called Ometepe, and you can hike it. And I've hiked it. I've hiked it in the past, and this was, 15 years ago, around there, and that was not easy. It's about probably just a 6-hour round trip, and there's trails, and we had a guide, but it was extremely hard for me going up up the volcano, and then you went up the volcano, and then the temperature changes, right? It gets cooler as you get higher up, and then you start the clouds. You start getting kind of where the clouds are, and then you go down into the volcano, and it's a dormant volcano. So it's just lush and green. It has like a lake inside of it. It was the most beautiful thing, one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. But there were some, when we were going up it, they had these young kids. They must have been teenagers, maybe 20. I'm like walking up, and these kids are just almost running up the mountain, So, when you describe your routine there, how fast are you going? How fast are you going up these mountains?
Well, I probably average 3 miles an hour going up these mountains realistically, but I'm spending a lot of time to stop and figure out my route. Because like I said, there's no trail. So I get out my map and my compass a lot of times just to figure out, am I going the right way? Is this where I need to be? It's a little slower. I go faster on the way down. The way up, I'm really trying to find the safest route, not just, I can get up that way, but is this the safest way up? Because I'm going to be sharing this with other people. I don't want to give them the hardest route to the summit. Like that's silly. So it takes me a little longer. On trails, I can hike pretty fast. Down, if I'm on a trail, it's usually 4.5 miles an hour. I'm hiking. I average 10 miles a day and 4,000 feet of elevation gain a day if you take everything I do and divide it by 365 in a year. So it's kind of a lifestyle for me. I'm doing a lot. I'm doing at least 10 miles a day every day. I'm doing 4,000 feet of elevation gain every day. And when you do that, your body's just trained for it. I mean, it just goes. I consider myself an athlete, and I treat my body that way. So when I'm not out hiking, I'm working out. I'm still doing stuff. If the weather says no to going outside, I respect that, and I do it inside.
Did any of your kids pick up mountaineering like yourself?
No, they're all, so I'm an empty nester now. They're all in college and beyond. They have all hiked Pikes Peak. They have all competed and won in outdoor survival competitions. They like that kind of stuff. They've judged outdoor survival competitions, but it is not their lifestyle. Every once in a while, one of my kids will be like, hey, we want to go camping. Can you give us a good spot? And I'm like, yay, parenting win. They want to go camping kind of thing. But they're not mountaineers like I am. They respect it. They're a little scared of it kind of thing. I'm intense. I'm way more intense than they are. And I don't expect them to do it like I do it.
Are there lessons that you've learned on the mountain that you take with you daily, that you carry daily with you?
A lot of it is just to keep going when you don't feel like you want to keep going. The weather's fine. You're dealing with something. Keep going. Don't be afraid to keep going. Don't be afraid to try. Don't be afraid to turn back, but don't be afraid to keep going. If you know it's in your skill set, keep going. I have learned I can be extremely tired and be hurting and be mentally exhausted. But when I hit that summit, it's a totally different feeling. And I know in my own personal life, it's like the long game. Hiking peaks is a long game. You might not get it this time, but come back, do some research, figure it out, and I can have the opportunity to try again. And even if it's just being a better person, like, you know what? I handled that poorly. Next time, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to make that mistake twice.
If you hadn't found hiking, mountaineering, do you think you would have found something else? And if you did find something else, do you have an idea as to what you may have found?
You know, I need to stay busy. I have to stay busy. I would have found something else. I have a ton of passions. It probably, this is going to sound silly, but would have been something like crocheting or reading books. I mean, I probably read 100 books a year and I make 6 or 7 blankets a year. Like I love doing that. And I make hats for one of our local schools. It's an outdoor school for 4th graders. And they have about 100 students, and I make 100 hats every year for them to wear outside because they're outside all the time and it's cold. I would definitely have found another passion. I'm still very involved in Girl Scouts. I'd probably still be a leader instead of an advisor, leading a troop, doing something. I have got to stay busy. I can't not be doing something. So yeah, I would have definitely funneled it in a different direction. This is a healthy direction. I mean, it's nice. I get a really good workout. I get mental clarity. I am summiting peaks and hitting goals, and that's amazing to me. But also, it's temporary. Like, I'm realizing I've done a ton of peaks, and it's my goal to finish the 13ers in the next year or two and then hit another stage of life. I would love to be a grandma. That's, I don't really get to choose if and when that happens, but I'm really hoping that happens sometime soon. We're homesteading, we're starting businesses, we're doing other things, and my life will probably go in another direction. I'll still be hiking, just not 150 peaks a year kind of thing. It'll be something different.
So you're raising a family, you're climbing these mountains, and you also have a full-time job.
Yes.
While you're doing this. Is that right?
Absolutely.
How do you find the time to do all of this? I mean, you talk about your crocheting as well. How are you making? You're raising children. You're making these hikes. You're working, I assume, like 40 hours a week. How do you find that time?
Well, I think they say if you need something done, don't ask the person with time, ask the person that is busy all the time, because they figure it out. I'm really good at micromanaging my schedule. And if I'm up, there's a time to do something. I can get something done. When my kids, like I said, they're all in college or beyond now, but when I was doing this and they were home, they would sleep on the weekends until noon. They were high school students. They were tired. They would sleep. I would get up at 2 a.m. and I'd be back by noon. Wake them up, come on guys, time to get out of bed. I didn't feel bad about it because they're going to sleep anyway. They got to sleep. They felt good about that. I got something in for myself. It just worked. I love schedules. I love Excel spreadsheets, that kind of stuff. Now, before COVID, it was more difficult because I was in the office 40 hours a week. So I really had to manage my time, and I probably got 4 hours of sleep a night max for years. I mean, for probably over 10 years. And then once the kids moved on, went to college, I'm like, you know what? I'm already dealing with the schedule of getting no sleep. Let's just continue it. Let's just, once you get on a pattern of getting the whole 8 to 10 hours of sleep a night, you want it, you crave it, right? But if you're not used to getting it, it's okay. You just keep going, and it's been great. It's worked for me. I don't know. I'd have a lot of energy, and yeah, mountaineering kind of gives me a place to expend that energy.
I have a silly question I want to ask you. So you've probably seen more of Colorado up in the mountains hiking than the vast majority of people in Colorado. Yeah, there's a bunch of hikers and mountaineers. Any evidence of Sasquatch out there you ever read it?
You know what? No, haven't seen it. I've been looking. I hear they're probably more up in Washington than Colorado, but nope, haven't seen anything. So.
No Sasquatch in Colorado.
No. It's rare if I see animals, let alone people. So, yeah.
Do you have any scary stories while you're out there alone hiking?
I have kind of a ghost story. Yeah. So there was one time I was still in the hundreds of the 13ers. So I still considered myself green at this point. And I had just done a really long hike, and I drove to Crystal Mill, Colorado, which is kind of an old ghost town kind of thing. It used to be a mining town, and it's kind of hard to get there. You need a four-wheel drive vehicle. There's shelf roads. You're worried about falling into the creek. It's insane. And I get there at night, and I just want to fall asleep and get up to hike the next morning. I get there at like 10 o'clock at night, and I've never been there before. So I knew there were supposed to be buildings there and stuff from the 1800s, wooden structures and stuff like that, but I couldn't actually see anything. So I'm sitting in the front seat of my truck, changing my clothes and getting ready to hop in the back to go to bed for the night. And in front of me, I see like a light turn on in the second story of this wooden house from the 1800s. And I see a lady walking around. She's got a nightgown on. She's got her hair pinned up in a bun, and she walks around, does a couple things, turns off the light, and that's it. I'm like, okay, that's kind of weird, but okay, I'm excited to see that house in the morning, right? I'm excited to see what it looks like and maybe talk to the person that lives there, because I'm just parked in this cul-de-sac type thing in what I'm assuming is a ghost town. I get up at 2 a.m, so I only get like 4 hours of sleep, which is normal. And I start my hike, and it was one of the most intense hikes I had done to that date. It was much longer than I thought it would be. There was a lot more snow. It took longer, so not only was I rock climbing, but there were areas of snow that were melted by the time I got to them because they had warmed up. So I was post-holing, and it was taking forever. So what was probably a 15-mile round trip hike, I didn't get back until like 8 o'clock at night. And I started at 2 a.m, which is going very slow. But like I said, rock climbing, and there were river crossings, and there was snow fields that I kept post-holing in. And it was just a really long, long day. And I get back, and my feet are hurting so much because of the rock work that I had been doing. And rock work actually hurts your feet. Like, rock work is mountaineering, climbing up rocks, and they're not steady, and you've got to watch every single step. And my feet were just killing me. So I get back to my truck, and I take off my shoes, and I put them in the creek, my feet in the creek, and just immediately started screaming because my feet were on fire. Like, it hurt so much to submerge them in the cold water. They were on fire. And from that point on, I couldn't walk. Like, I couldn't walk at all. So I kind of crawled back to my truck. And as I'm looking around me, I realized that there is no house there. Like, where I had saw the woman the night before, there was no house there at all. Like, how in the world did I see that? And what I forgot to mention, and it was really an important part of the story, and I'm sorry, was when I woke up at 2 a.m, I saw the exact same thing. I saw the exact same thing I had seen at 10 o'clock the night before. I had seen a woman, have a candle in her hand, light in the window, walking around, picking things up, putting them down, blowing out the candle, going back to bed. So I saw it twice the night before, and when I get back, there's actually no house there at all.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how far away was that house? How far away was that house? Did you perceive
like
it to
20
be?
feet away? It looked like
20 feet?
right there. It looked like
Oh,
it was
wow.
right there, because I was on a little cul-de-sac where you can park if you want to start hiking. And to be fair, there was a house on the other side across the street, but it was a modern house. It had been built this century kind of thing. But what I saw the night before was something out of the 1800s. Definitely looked almost like an old storefront, but it was an old house. Yeah. But yeah, old ghost town. So that kind of haunts me to this day, because I know I saw it, and I know I saw it twice. Like, I saw it 2 times, and the next day there's no house there.
You ever been so tired coming down a mountain or going up a mountain to where you start hallucinating?
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. It's happened twice, and I have learned to counteract that because it was scary each time. But yeah, absolutely. And I pushed myself because of bad beta. Like I said, a lot of these mountains people don't climb very often. So one time I thought it was going to be 23 miles round trip, and 5 to 7,000 feet of elevation gain. And that's in my repertoire. I can do that. I do Pikes Peak all the time, and that's more on each side than that. It's more elevation gain. It's more mileage. I've got this. And there was one time I was hiking, and I realized early on that it was going to be much harder than my beta had given me. It was going to be longer than the mileage they told me it was going to be. It was going to be more elevation gain than the information that was out there, but there just wasn't good information out there. And I kept going and decided to do it anyway. And it ended up being a 39-mile hike with 13,000 feet of elevation gain. And I did that in 25 hours. And most of it was just, especially the last 10 miles, was just pushing through. I know where the car is. I did it as a day hike, so I didn't have a backpack and I didn't have a sleeping bag or any of that kind of stuff. And I knew from my decisions earlier in the day that it was going to be a rough night, right? Like I knew it was going to be a rough night. If I really wanted to do this and not come back, I was just going to have to power through and get it done. And about 5 miles before I was done, I started having hallucinations. Everything changed. Rocks became bugs, sticks became snakes. Every tree branch looked like something was coming at me, a giraffe or a panda or something weird. But in my mind, I was still clear enough to know that I was having hallucinations. And I just had to focus on the trail. Just focus on the trail and keep going. At that point, luckily, I was on a class 1 trail. So I didn't have to think much. I didn't have to route find, didn't have to get out my compass. It was just follow the trail back to your truck. And a lot of that was my own fault. I wasn't drinking enough during the day. I didn't eat enough during the day. I was, low on calories. It was completely my fault. Interesting experience. Never wanted to have it again. So now I force myself to eat and drink while I'm hiking so that that doesn't occur again. But several hours of hallucinations on the trail. Have you been in Texas your whole life?
Yeah. I was born in South Texas, and then I went to A&M in College Station, and then I've been outside of Houston now ever since. So yeah, I've been pretty much in Texas my whole life. Yeah.
Nice.
So you've been Colorado and California yourself?
Well, except when I was younger. So my family's from East Texas. They're out of Lindale, outside of Tyler, kind of thing. And then Mississippi. So I used to spend my summers in Mississippi with my granny and granddad after they moved from Texas to Mississippi, kind of thing. So yeah, but that would be for like 6 weeks at a time, kind of thing in the summer. But yeah, I'm from California and Colorado.
Yeah, Mississippi. Most folks go the other way. There's not a lot of people that go that way. You know what I mean? most folks come this way.
In Mississippi, the property's been in the family since the 1840s. So it had always been in the family, but my granddad was Navy, so they moved all over and then retired. Actually, he ended up dying at 94 in the same house he was born in, kind of thing. So, yeah, we'd have family reunions every year, and they would last for weeks. And we'd go back, and all the cousins and all the aunts and uncles and family would go to Mississippi. So,
yeah, my dad grew up in South Texas, a small town called San Isidro, and the we celebrated the 100-year anniversary of the ranch. Like his dad purchased it in 1925.
oh, okay.
Yeah, or 1924. I'm sorry. So there's a lot of history,
Yeah, that's neat.
If you could take a special trip, a hike with someone special to you, be it someone now or someone in the past or someone you found interesting, is there one person that you would take with you? Who would that be and why?
Okay, well, I've got two. One's a historical figure and one's a family figure. So honestly, Sacagawea, however you say her name, I think it would be awesome to go on a hike with her and just talk about what it was like back when they were doing the Lewis and Clark expedition and the things she went through and the things she saw, and being a female in that and exploring kind of uncharted territory to us. I would love to just pick her brain about what was going on and how that went down and the dynamics of being in the group, and that would be phenomenal for me. With my family, unfortunately, my grandma died when I was in my early 20s, and I had kids young, so I was kind of living my own life, and I missed so many opportunities just to ask her how she did what she did things, how she baked pasta, how she made things from scratch, her recipes, how she lived her life, how she fell in love with my grandpa and things like that. I don't have those stories, and I never asked them. And if I could have the opportunity to hike with somebody, it would be her, so that I could ask all the things I never got a chance to ask. I didn't expect her to die so young. And I feel as an adult now, I did have time with her, but I didn't ask the important questions. I didn't. She was just there. I mean, she was just my grandma. She was just there. And as an adult, as raising kids, going through things, I really wish I had those stories from her.
You know, for myself, what you just said there has some resonance with me, because this is part of the reason why I'm podcasting. I'm recording people. My dad passed away about 1 to 2 years ago.
I'm sorry.
And thank you. And he was my hero, still is. But I never got to ask him a lot of questions that I mean, I grew up with him. I knew what he thought. But when you're a child to a father, sometimes you don't ask some of these questions. You always think there's time. And so the reason I got started is because I said, I want to have an aunt and an uncle, and my mom still alive. And I said, I want to ask these questions, find out what I want to ask them, questions that I've maybe always wanted to ask, but never did. And so I have kids now, and they're not going to know as much as my dad as I did. So I interviewed my mom, and the purpose of me doing that was to leave like a record for the grandkids, so that maybe one day, if they do want to know about their grandma, they can kind of maybe sit down and listen. And I asked her those questions that maybe grandkids would want to know about their grandmother, So yeah, I can completely understand your answer there.
And I think that's awesome. I mean, I am the oldest grandchild on that side of the family. And we have a cousin chat where we'll talk about stuff. All the cousins, there's like 8 of us, and we'll discuss things. And I'm surprised how much they don't remember. I thought I didn't remember a lot, but I have way more memories than they do. And it's like, I want to share this with you. They don't remember a lot of the stories because they were 4 or 5 years old when she died, and I was 20. So I feel like I'm trying to share those stories with them, but I wish I had more to share. I wish I knew more. And I'll ask my aunts and uncles, and I'll hear cool stuff every once in a while. It's like, I didn't know that. Why didn't you tell me that? But also, I didn't know to ask. I didn't know what I didn't know. I didn't know the questions to ask.
Yeah, I took my mom also. What my mom would do is she would write these books, like family books, as like a historical memory. So for several years, she hasn't done it in a few years now, but for like 15 years, she would write a book annually, and she would chronicle what the family did that year with pictures and
That's
and
awesome.
things.
That is
Yeah.
an awesome memory to have in your family. That is awesome.
Yeah, when I told her I would be doing this, she was all for it. She's like, "Yes, you have to. You must do it." So yeah, it has some meaning for me. If you could only climb one mountain for the rest of your life, as many times as you wanted, but you're only allowed one, what mountain would that be?
That would honestly probably be Pikes Peak. I've done it over 3 dozen times. I love it. It's different every time. That's my favorite one to do. It's nice. It's close. I don't get tired of it. I don't do a lot of repeats anymore unless people ask me to do them, but I would do Pikes Peak as a repeat anytime.
I've been to Pikes Peak, I think 3 times now. When I was a kid, my mom and dad, they were teachers, and we'd have the summer off, and we would drive. And we always loved going to Colorado. And first time I was at Pikes Peak, I was with my family. And then I went again before after graduating college and before starting work, I did somewhat of a solo trek myself. I drove. I didn't have anyone that could take time off, right, to go with me. And I said, you know what? I want to go to the top of Pikes Peak again. And I had a car, and I drove out there, and all by myself, went camping along the way, stayed at like a KOA or in a tent, and then went up to the top of Pikes Peak and experienced that, and then I drove back home. So that's a special place for me too.
If you ever want to hike it, let me know. If you end up being there at night, there's a A-frame you can sleep in that's about 10 miles in. It's a couple miles before the actual summit. And the views from that at night are absolutely amazing. You can see to Kansas and the lights of the city below, and it's an amazing experience. And I love to take people to do that. Make it like a 3-day backpacking trip. Not quite so hard. You do a couple miles first day, a couple miles second day, come back. It's a great, great experience.
What do you want your kids to remember about you?
I would like them to remember that I was always there for them, that I tried really hard to be a good mom and found a way to make things happen. For a long time, we had no money. I mean, after the divorce, we had no money, but they were still in sports. They were still in scouts. We still did things. We might be eating ramen for dinner every night, but we're going to make it happen. And I'd like for them in their own lives to know that you're going to struggle at times, but hopefully they can see that I struggled, but still made it through. Didn't complain. Well, I might have complained a little bit, but, found a way to make it happen. There's always a way to make it happen, and don't give up. If there's something you really want to do, if there's something you're passionate about, pursue it and do it and make it happen.
If you spoke to yourself, that little girl and Girl Scout when you were younger, now, what would you tell yourself?
Probably something very similar to what I would tell my kids. Don't give up. Set goals, and you can do it. I mean, people are going to tell you can't, but that's their limitation, not yours. Just because somebody else can't do it doesn't mean you can't do it. Don't live your life through somebody else's fears. Just because they're afraid to do something and you're not doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. If you're not afraid to do something solo, go do it. Don't not do it because your mom says, I'm afraid of that. You shouldn't go. I don't want you to go. You're not going to be safe. Figure it out. Figure out a way to make yourself safe. Don't live your life through somebody else's fears. Take those chances and do it.
Do you think you'd be proud of yourself?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, absolutely. I am very proud of myself and my accomplishments. I think my younger self would be very proud of the things I have done. Not necessarily all the choices I've made, but the way I've dealt with the choices I've made.
How do you want your journey to be remembered by others?
I want to be remembered as somebody who inspired people to get outdoors, who inspired people to get out of their comfort zone and explore nature or get out in the wilderness or whatever their dreams or passions are. I want to inspire them to go after them, to say, you know what? Yeah, this is something I can do. Just because it hasn't been done before doesn't mean it can't be done. And I want to do it. I would love to inspire people, especially in the outdoors. I want people to get outdoors. I mean, especially in Colorado, we've just got amazing scenery. We've got amazing hikes. I can't say enough about getting out there and enjoying them because we have them. They're public lands. We all own them. Enjoy them.
I don't know if you're religious or not, but has taking these treks, these climbs, given you a different perspective on things?
It has. I wouldn't say I'm religious, but I grew up in the church. And I can say that while I'm talking to myself on these hikes, I'm really kind of talking to God at the same time. I mean, because I do have a religious background, I do know right and wrong and morals and all those things. And it's like he's talking back to me going, that's not the right way to deal with this. So while I say I'm talking to myself, I am in my own way talking to God as well. It is my place I go to find my spirituality.
In the end, do you think it was about climbing mountains or finding yourself? And if it was finding yourself, did you find what you were looking for?
I think a lot of it was finding myself. It was hiking and mountaineering was just kind of the vehicle towards making that happen. I mean, I do enjoy hiking and mountaineering, but I have definitely found out who I am along the way and who I want to be, which is almost just as important. Like, this is my life. I love doing it. I find great passion in mountaineering, but it also gives me clarity in how to deal with everything else in my life.
Well, Laura Clark, thank you so much for this interview. I was really looking forward to this. Your story to me is inspiring. Your life is inspiring. I think that there's probably a lot of people that hear what you've put yourself through and feel inspiration from that. Thank you for taking this time to answer some of my questions. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having me on. It was great talking with you. If you'd ever like a follow-up, I'd love to come on and talk with you again.
Absolutely. Oh yeah, definitely. I've definitely considered taking you up on that. Where can people find more about you? Where if someone wants to learn more about you, where can they find some information about you?
Okay, so I've got a website. It's wildwanderertripreports.com. And on that is all the trip reports I do. They're all free and there's no ads. So you don't have to worry about, going through a bunch of ads to find the information you want. There's a link on there to a podcast I have, which I say loosely. It's mainly getting people outdoors, the basics to hiking, the basics to going solo or staying warm or animal encounters kind of thing. And there's a link to buy my book, which is called Wild Wanderer, Soloing Colorado's 200 Highest Peaks. I actually have a copy of it right here. So that's me. And it's pretty much a compilation of stories, going from mom to mountaineer, not knowing anything, to really coming into my own and figuring out what I was doing in the mountaineering world. And yeah, that's for the 200 highest peaks. I have a lot more now. I wish I would have waited to write the book because I have so much more stories, but there's tons of stories in there that anybody can read. Their campfire stories and maybe some things I've gotten into that you should stay away from. Like, dangerous situations you can learn from my mistakes kind of thing. Enjoyable read. And I'm on Instagram too. So Laura_M_Clark on Instagram. I post pictures of the mountains I'm climbing. And I'll probably have some pictures coming up. I'm going to South America next month, in April. So in a little ways. And I'll probably be posting pictures of my hiking and climbing there as well.
Where in South America are you going?
I'm going to Peru. I'll be going to a couple countries, but I'll be doing the Galapagos Islands and then Machu Picchu and, the trails there. So I'm excited for that. I haven't been to South America yet, so I'll be there for about 3 weeks, and I'm just going to be exploring. So I'm going to see what happens when I'm there, kind of thing.
That sounds exciting. All right. Well, thank you so much.
Awesome. It was great talking with you.